Pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength BodCast. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's edition of the Original Strength BodCast. I've got my friend Raleigh on the line with me today, or the Zoom, and we're going to be talking about strength training or moving or all of the above. Raleigh, thanks for being with me today.
Hey, thanks so much, Tim, for having me on the podcast.
So you're a athletic director and a head football coach and a dean of students.
I am, yes.
A man with many hats.
Just a few hats, but they're all great hats. I work at a small private Christian school in San Diego, and we are navigating COVID just like everybody during this time. But we're blessed, man. We're definitely blessed. I'll tell you that.
So, guys at home, I first met Raleigh through YouTube. He left a comment on a video. It was a question and a comment, and I thought it was great because it's really kind of where I'm at in my thought process. Anyway, I'll just read you Raleigh's question, and then we're just gonna, if it's okay with you, Raleigh, we're just gonna talk about it.
Sounds good.
All right. So, hi Tim. I've been toying with the idea of switching up my routine recently to a program exclusively comprised of mindful walking and intuitive yoga like OS flow, in which I move, stretch, flex, bend however my body feels. I do a flow like this once a week and always feel ridiculously amazing afterwards. That being said, part of me hesitates that the type of program isn't enough to build sufficient strength to get me into better shape. I would continue to be disciplined and train each day, except on Sundays, by starting a day off with either a walk or a flow. What are your thoughts about a program like this? And have you ever engaged in a random intuitive flow that is completely unstructured, focusing around OS movements and more? Do you think this is enough to get in great shape? I train mostly for enjoyment. I'm past the days of pushing through grueling, boring workouts. My keys nowadays are consistency and enjoyment. That being said, I don't want to stall my progress. There's a lot there.
There's a lot. Yeah.
So where are you with that now? First of all, yes, I do think you can do all of that. I do think you can totally free flow and be intuitive and move and stay strong. And I have, I mean, that's where I'm at in my life. I too am past torturing myself. And mostly because, well, it doesn't feel good. But then this thought came into my head wondering, is this the way? And then that thought just ushers all these other thoughts in. So since that question, where are you right now with that thought process?
Sure. Are you okay if I give you a little background to it all first?
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
You already said I'm an athletic director and a football coach now, so a lifelong athlete. Was drawn to training from an early age. 7th grade, we had access in middle school for the first time to a weight room. I was kind of a scrawny kid and got picked on, and I wanted to train. I wanted to make myself stronger, more athletic, and I just got hooked to it right then and there. I remember my very first time entering that weight room, my 7th grade year of school, and I heard AC/DC, Thunderstruck playing in the background, and boom, it had me hooked right then and there. And I kept training throughout middle school, into high school. I trained a lot. I trained 6, 7 days a week. I was spending 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. Got into playing high school football in high school. And so obviously heavy weightlifting goes hand in hand with playing high school football, as it should, I think, in a lot of ways. But really got into that culture. And from there, let's just say I overdid it a little bit. I think that's safe to say that I overdid it. But doing that too much just destroyed my shoulders. Squatting too much just destroyed my lower back. And from there, I just got to this point where I was like, I got to pause. I'm doing too much. After being so regimented for so long, I just am living by the sets and the reps numbers, and honestly just tearing myself apart, trying to nitpick every single detail of a training program. Going on vacation, can't have an off day. And it wasn't just the physical side to it. it was this mental side to it too, where I just burned myself out. And I know I've heard you kind of talk about this path for yourself as well several times. And that was my story as well. And eventually I just had this realization that what in the world am I actually training for?
Mm.
What am I actually training for? What is my why? I'm sure you're familiar with Strong First, and you know, one of their articles I remember reading, and one of Pavel's books that I remember reading was talking about being strong to be useful. So it made me think, what am I trying to be strong to be useful for? And I eventually just dialed myself back, got myself to this point of a philosophy that my why is three things. My why is to be able to play with my kids. My why is to be able to defend my family if need be. And my why is to be able to live the life that I want to live at the end of the day. I don't engage in competitive powerlifting right now. I'm not training to be an elite football player anymore. I'm not training really for competition of any sort. But of course, I still want to be in shape, because as a coach, you got to demonstrate drills. You every once in a while need to hop in there with the kids in a normal year, right? Got to hop in there with the kids. And I think that if we're going to expect them to be in good shape, we also have to model it ourselves. And so that kind of got wrapped into the live the life that you want to be able to live. I want to be able to go for a hike with my kids on a whim. I want to be able to go skateboarding with my kids. I want to be able to hop into the water and go surf. We're in San Diego, so obviously it's a great surf spot over here. I want to be able to hop on a paddleboard and go paddleboard, or whatever it is. Somehow I found you and found original strength online. And I just realized, my goodness, this is an answer to prayer. I know you've kind of talked about your own journey is praying, how can I become bulletproof, I think was your prayer, right? And
Yeah.
I prayed myself as well, not necessarily that same exact question, but kind of like, what's next for me in my physical journey, if you will, because I've always loved it. It's not something that I ever want to leave a part of me. I always love it. And I think a lot of the listeners out there probably love it too. That's a reason why we do it. And so anyway, found you, kind of started getting plugged in with original strength myself, started toying around with the resets here and there. And I remember the first time I ever did them, and I was dealing with a back problem, and I had bursitis in both my knees at that point. And I don't know if you've ever had bursitis, but bursitis, when I've had them in my knees, I've had them 3 times in each knee. They would kind of like switch off. My right knee would go, and then my left knee would go when the right knee got better. And they just keep on switching off. And each time it would just happen. I don't even know how it happened. It would just happen. And the bursa sac would get filled up and swollen and really painful, to where the movement was restricted and the quality of life wasn't great. And here I am, I'm a coach, I'm a PE teacher, and I'm on my feet all day. And so I'm like, I need some relief from this. And I did the resets, and I had bursitis in my knees on and off each knee for like 9 months at a time. It would last for like 9 months and just go and go and go. And then one day it would just kind of get better. But I was living a pretty sedentary life, other than teaching PE and coaching sports, but I wasn't really training because of my knees. And it just took forever to heal up. And I tried these resets, and boom, like I'm talking the next morning, 50% better in both knees. And like 2 days later, like 48 hours later, I'm talking like nothing had ever happened. And bursitis has never come back to me ever since. And
Holy
I had
moly.
it for several years. I told you, I had it in each knee several times, and each time it would last months. And since doing the resets, the bursitis has never come back in each knee. The back is healed up from playing football and doing powerlifting. The shoulders, for the most part, have healed up from football and powerlifting. The neck, the same story. And, of course, we get older, right? And we get aches and pains and things happen, right? And so it's not saying nothing ever comes back, but when it does, I get on the floor, I do the resets, and it helps. And I just had such great personal experience with it that I started using it with my athletes. And football, injuries are inevitable in any sport, but especially in football. It's a contact sport. And so you have our football players, they get hurt and they get a knee injury, they pull a hip flexor, their hamstrings are tight. They get various things, lower back stuff. And all of a sudden it just hit me. Why am I using this for myself, not using this for my players? And so I started, if I had a player with a lower back injury and he couldn't squat when we're doing the weight room, so I'd take him out to the side, put him on a mat, and I'd put him through a gentle, easy circuit of head nods and rocking, and maybe some rolling if he was able to tolerate it. And you see a guy who could barely squat down at all with a lower back injury, and in like 5 or 10 minutes, he's doing full range of motion rocking and able to push himself back into what I call a toddler squat, where your kind of back is rounded, butt is below the knees, heels are flat. And having not been able to do a regular conventional squat even a quarter of the way or halfway before, 5 or 10 minutes later, he's doing full range of motion. And so we don't necessarily throw the weight back on then. We keep progressing with the range of motion and build back up the stability. And the kids always look at me when I have them roll on the floor like I'm asking them to do something just stupid. But I'm like, no, trust me, trust the process. And after a few minutes, they're sold. And so, that's me kind of using it in my practice with my kids. Concussions are a thing in football, obviously, and there's no way to fully avoid them just in the contact sport. We, of course, try to teach proper technique and form, but even then, just contact happens. But one of the things I read a long time ago was that strengthening the neck is supposed to help reduce the likelihood of a concussion. And so what did we start doing one year when I started seeing that these things worked for the athletes and worked for myself? I started making resets a mandatory part of every warm-up of every single practice, to where they're doing neck nods and head rotations and rocking as well, to open up the lower back as well and create kind of that mobility in the spine a little bit. And so every practice, you got my entire football team doing neck nods, head rotations, and rocking. It just kind of became a part of our routine. And I saw that the year that we started doing them, based on the year before, we had drastically less concussions. And I mean, part of that, I'm sure, is technique, right? Of kids getting used to proper tackling technique. Some of it is just pure luck, right? But I also think that anecdotally, the resets helped.
You could have written my origin story, or I could have written yours. Like, they're almost identical, almost identical. Like, even to 6th grade, football coach comes up to me and says, "Son, if you want to play on my football team, you're going to have to get in the weight room because you were too skinny, too small." Like, and that started my whole sickness. Anyway, but your backstory, though, the writing on the wall is almost all the answers to the questions to me that you're asking. Yeah. Like you can see it just forming. So, which leads me back to, where are you at with your initial question on YouTube?
Sure. So going to the more recent thing, I have a daily routine where I wake up early, wake up around 5 a.m. every morning. And first thing I do is I go train and do something. And I've been doing that now for many, 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 many months, and feel like it just starts my day off right. I feel more energy that lasts throughout the day. Before the kids wake up, especially when we were all in quarantine together. And so got into this habit, waking up early in the morning and training first thing. But as I was saying, kind of got back to that place again of what is my why? But got to this point where I had 1 or 2 days a week where I just started playing around with doing this flow. I saw my wife, she was following along to this yoga video, and not all of it, but some of the movements resembled the resets, the OS resets. And it just got me thinking, like, why don't I just make a workout of that? Just tried it out. I put on, a mat on the floor and created some space for myself. And I just started going through a flow of the resets. And at first I thought that I was going to go with all right, first we're going to do neck rotations, and now we're going to do neck nods. I went into it thinking I was going to do that. And after a minute or so, I just kind of realized, okay, all right, I'm doing my neck nods, but I kind of want to try it a little bit this way with a little bit of rotation. And that led me into the next thing of, well, let me rotate a little bit further. And I'm not necessarily doing a roll just yet, but I'm just kind of figuring it out and seeing where I go. And that eventually led to me to forget the repetitions altogether and forget the time altogether and just go. Afterwards, I felt amazing. I just felt incredible.
Yeah.
And for that, I kept it as a once a week thing, as like a recovery day, so to speak. And when I get to this point of kind of beating myself up again, joints are starting to creep back in a little bit. And I think, well, okay, let me take an off day and do this reset flow. And so I did a reset flow. And that just sparked the whole thing again of what if my exercise program was comprised of reset flow and walking, which is, as you talk about a lot, it is a reset. It is the ultimate reset. And I always feel great after a walk. I feel like it helps keep you in shape. I think there's so much research out there that proves that. It's easy on the joints. You can pick it up into a trot or a jog or a sprint if you want to at any point, and you can slow down. But I think then it just hit me, and deep down I knew the answer. Right, I knew the answer. But of course, I just wanted to bounce that off you. Of can't I get away from a traditional, structured, conventional workout program and just build it around moving how my body wants to move? In the past few months since I wrote that post and have been following a program like this, not only do I feel like the aches and pains that were starting to creep back once again are gone now, I also feel like my mental sanity in this time of 2020 has just come back. And I don't want to neglect to mention this either, Tim, that I believe that we are mind, body, and spirit. I don't believe that we are just body isolated from the mind, and just body or mind isolated from the spirit. I think we are all of those, and they work in harmony with one another. And so I do follow up my time training every morning with a time of devotion and a time of prayer and reading scripture and meditating on it as well. That's a key part for me as well. And I feel like starting my day off 5 a.m. Every day or 6 days a week like that has been able to keep me sane during all the craziness that's happening in the world, and has allowed me to put up with a lot of the constant changes and restrictions and guidelines and all this that keeps on happening to us. And I would credit that, honestly, my morning training and my morning time with God as the way that has allowed me to make it through this and be okay.
So it's great. So yes, and to me, what you have discovered is how if we move how we're designed to move, things just take care of themselves mostly. And so for your journey, like, man, I understand and it's weird, right? Because it takes courage to not do the things that you've done for years, or the things that you believe, that you've studied, that you know are the right way to do this, to strength train it. Like, because why do we have all these parameters in place? Why do we do sets and reps in a certain number for hypertrophy, for endurance, for mesocycles, microcycles? Why do people go to universities to learn how to strength train? Like, so it takes courage to walk away from that, not walk away from it, but to try something less structured, more freeing, or more natural. And really, I think that's what it gets down to is what is our natural design? Mm-hmm. Yes, we can do those things. And if they bring us joy, have at it. Mm-hmm. But if we're doing it because we think it's somehow we're tied to it and it's the only way to get strong. And then, like, you had the most brilliant like, I didn't even have the aha moment of why am I doing this? Mine was just, am I supposed to be doing it?
Hmm.
But like, what am I training for? You know, like what magic trophy are you going to get from showing up on Mondays every day to do bench press? And, you know, so I know it takes a lot of courage just to step away from that and entertain your idea of, can I do it this way?
Yeah,
But then that's where you found the proof of the pudding though. Like you can get stronger just by moving, just by being really.
absolutely. My body feels healthy. My body feels strong. Um, I've actually found that I've gotten in better shape here over the past few months. My pull-ups, which I used to crank them out back in the day like no one's business, but over the past few years, not training them as much, they've gone down. Been having kids. I've found that my pull-ups have gone up by 5 repetitions without training pull-ups, with doing nothing but a program comprised of walking, early morning reset flow, and then whatever other physical activity what we want to do during the day. The kids like to go scootering or biking, and then my wife and I will skateboard or scooter alongside them, and that might be the movement as well, or going to the beach and hopping in the cold water and go for a body surf or whatever it is. And and I just think building a life around movement rather than structured exercise. I'm sure I'm probably preaching to the choir a little bit with you here, Tim, but it was a game changer for me, and it was liberating.
Yes.
And it's liberating to know that I have the freedom to do a reset flow with no rhyme or reason other than here's your 20 minutes or your 30 minutes, and you're just going to go for that time and see where your body wants to take you, or go for a walk for the amount of time that you have, and it's okay to pick up the speed and go for a run. Okay, well, what if this morning, what if you do want to do some Turkish get-ups or floor presses or pull-ups or TRX rows or whatever it is? Those are okay to do too. It doesn't have to be either or. We are designed to move, as you say a lot. Our bodies can handle many different types of movements. And if I myself am not training for any specific sport right now, then I realize it is okay for me to train what I want to train when I want to train it. As long as I am uh, being consistent with it, as long as I am, um, you know, listening to my body, that is what matters right now. And I feel great. I feel like the pounds have been coming off, the wrong pounds, and the good pounds, the muscles have been coming on, and I feel in better shape if I want to go for a run alongside my kids on their bikes. And anyway, it sounds all just too simple. I realize that, but simple. I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things just in general as human beings. And so um, I'll pause there. I spoke a lot. I'll
No,
pause there.
I think it's beautiful. Like, and, yes, I've kind of experienced the same thing where I walked away from any type of structured weight training where now I have structured movement, which is I like the discipline of getting up and just moving every day,
Mm-hmm.
or what happens if I just move in little small pockets of time throughout the day? Like I start to play that way. It's still structured in the fact that I'm going to show up, but I'm not necessarily married to or tied to what I'm going to be doing. And even if I am, it's probably not going to look the same tomorrow or the next day or the next day, because that's how I learn. I'm trying to discover new things now.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no award out there. I've checked. Trust me. There is no award for the person who worked out the most on vacation. It does not exist.
Nah, I have ruined, like, man, I mean, people understood it was me and I was just being me. But I have left so many family vacations to drive 30 to 40 minutes to the nearest gym to get my workout on and then drive 30 to 40 minutes back. So now I've lost 3 to 4 hours of the day that the rest of the family was out throwing frisbee on the beach, really actually moving and enjoying themselves. While
Mm-hmm.
I was justifying that, well, I got to do this to stay strong. For what? And is that
For
really
what?
strength? I wasn't strong enough not to go. I wasn't strong enough to stay and throw the Frisbee. So it's this upside down conundrum.
I think in scripture, it talks about the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So essentially a day of rest was made for us as people to rest and recover. We were not made for it to be a slave to it, essentially, so to speak, right? Well, it's the same thing with training. Training is made as something that is there to make us stronger in mind, body, and spirit. Are we made for exercise, or is exercise made for us? I guess at the end of the day, it's a different philosophy. And so, are we slave to it, or are we using it for our own benefit? That's the paradigm, I think.
That's, yes, spot on. Oh man, this has been a lot of fun, Raleigh. Thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And I think I've found that by listening to my body and exercise, the aha moment for me has been my body is now also more intuitive in knowing what it wants to eat and not being as hungry as I typically would be otherwise. That, like, listening to my body intuitively, listening to its wisdom and its guidance in this one way has allowed me also the benefit of listening to it in the nutritional component. And because those go hand in hand, I've seen my health get better and better over the past several months without killing myself, which I've done before. And I guarantee to the listeners out there as well that listen to your body. If you feel like powerlifting one day, if you feel like doing yoga one day, or just going for a walk, or all you want to do is lay down on your back and stretch and do some core work or whatever it is, or just do a reset flow, do it. Listen to your body, and then watch how that helps translate into the other areas of your life as well. It's going to tell you when you're tired and when you need to rest. It's also going to tell you when you need to eat and when you need to stop eating, how much you should eat and what you should eat. And our bodies are just amazingly designed. You say it all the time. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Our bodies are incredibly designed. If we listen to them, they will more times than not lead us in the right direction. And so that's kind of a bring it home, if you will.
Bring it. No, that's great. There are definitely a lot of intuitive wisdom inside of our bodies for sure. Raleigh, thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend.